Another epic encounter between two of the best teams in Europe. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. First off, fantastic game of rugby. It always kind of seems to be when these two play each other as well. Close encounters, very physical, and it feels like, there are moments in the game where either team, if they get things right, could have the winning of it as well. Starts off with kind of first few minutes, Leinster offside. Astoy lands a kick for 3-0. Not a gimme by any stretch, but he's a class operator from the tee. Then Bodahen with a strong carry that gets La Rochelle into 22, but Leinster managed to hold the ball up after the ruck, and then they turn it over. But you can see, warning signs there from La Rochelle, those big men carrying. Leinster able to get them to ground, but taking a lot of effort, and it's bending their line as well. More warning signs from La Rochelle as well, as it combined well out wide on the right, but Osborne gets in the passing channel to kill the move, and did well, because initially he actually shot out and was beaten, but then got back to get in there. But La Rochelle, they didn't get to that width often in the game, but when they did, they almost invariably made ground. Then La Rochelle are offside from a kick. Prendergast levels it up at 3 points all. La Rochelle, though, applying pressure, very clever kicking game from them. Doolan wins an early contest on the edge of the 22 on the right. Then a kick through and a great chase forces Leinster over their own line, and it's a 5-meter attacking scrum. And, we know that La Rochelle have the ability to finish from here. Leinster, though, managed to stifle that attack off the back of the scrum. But we do come back for a penalty at the scrum because Healy was pinged for collapsing. Leinster then managed to hold him out again, as La Rochelle going to 1-out runners, but then Leinster conceded another penalty, and it feels like this early period is crucial already in the game. La Rochelle, they decide to kick to the corner. Hindsight 2020 and all, you might think could have kicked to the post and just start to kind of start to build a lead in the game, but Leinster hold them in the maul. Then Aldreet peels off, he gets held as well, and then just aggressive defence from Leinster, driving La Rochelle back towards the edge of the 22, and then Leinster win a penalty and they can clear. Porter now comes on for Cian Healy. Didn't see what happened with Healy at that stage, whether it's an injury or because we saw Porter coming on in a previous game, actually fairly early in the game, but that was actually a planned substitution. La Rochelle then steal Leinster line out on the edge of the 22, and they switch it quickly to the opposite wing as they're on the attack, but then Doris managed to turn the ball over after Nell got held up. Just great scramble defence from Leinster there, and there were times where that scramble really did save them. La Rochelle pinning Leinster in their own half, and you feel like Leinster, they need some kind of out, because we know the defence is really good, but you can only soak up so much pressure, and you have to have something going forward as well to just start sapping some energy from the opposition as well. Leinster pinged for not rolling away. Astoy makes a 6.3, and La Rochelle back in front. Then Leinster do get some go forward. Baird on the burst goes through a gap up into the 22. Gibson Park then tries a cross kick, but it goes straight out, and it felt like maybe at that stage Leinster, they hadn't got much chance in the La Rochelle half. They're on the edge of the 22. I'm not sure there was a need for that kick. Like, it was very speculative, obviously not well executed, and it felt like a bit rushed from him, and felt like a little bit more patience from them, and maybe just start getting a little bit of territory and putting pressure back the other way, but they weren't able to do that at that point. But then Prendergast then gets charged down for the second time in the game, and it did end with a penalty to Leinster, but you feel like he needs to heed those warnings. He's taking a little bit too long on his kicks, and La Rochelle, other than pressuring his kicks all over, they were putting pressure on him as well, rushing him, and just the increase in the pace at this level compared to URC, really kind of noticeable for him, I think. And it's something where he's just got to, the decision making and the actions have to be just a little bit faster if he's not to get caught a bit more. Baird then puts Osborne through a gap, and he does really well to kind of hold on to it. It was one of those ones where he was kind of holding the ball against his thigh, gets into his hand then, and then feeds McCarthy, who goes over to score. Really well worked try from Leinster. We know that they can, with that precision, when they can get it, they can open teams up. We haven't been seeing as much precision as we're used to from them this season, but when it clicks for them. Converted then by Prendergast, 10 points to 6. Leinster hit the front. La Rochelle then lose Antonio to injury, and he'd been hobbling out there for a while, got treated a couple of times. Hopefully it's not too serious for him, with another big game for La Rochelle, and then you've got the Six Nations coming up as well, and I don't like to see any players, whoever they play for, getting injured, because I just feel like it's such a not great situation. You want, as I said before, whatever team you support, well, from my point of view, like I'm a Leinster supporter, whoever we're playing, I want us to beat them because we're better than them, not because players got injured or whatever, right? So you never want to see that happening to an opposition player or your own player or whoever, right? Or just watching neutral matches as well. I always kind of feel the same way, that hopefully it's nothing all that serious for the player, and they can get back as quickly as possible. Leinster then at that stage go up a couple of gears, and they're beginning to apply pressure in the La Rochelle 22, and they have men over on the left. Nowell blocks a pass, and then Astoy gathers, and he goes to length and under the posts. Leinster desperately trying to catch him and hunt him down, but they can't do it. But we have a team more review, and it confirms that Nowell actually knocked the ball on when he tried to gather it. It was, some Leinster fans will definitely disagree with me, but I felt it was a genuine attempt to get the ball, and it wasn't one of these ones where it was just slapped down because there were men outside him, and had it gone to hands for Leinster, it probably would have been a try. But that was absolutely a genuine attempt to get the ball. Astoy was in front of him, so he was offside as a penalty to Leinster. Leinster decide to kick to the corner, but the line out malfunctions again, and that's been a real Achilles heel for them. And La Rochelle clear, and again, kind of similar to La Rochelle earlier, you're thinking maybe you should have just kick for the post, but these teams, they're used to kind of applying that pressure, right? You kick to the corner and you get the penalty, get the try, and in this kind of game, that could be the score that ultimately ends up winning it, or just kind of breaking the spirits of the opposition, and putting it down in their mind as whether it's going to be their day or not. But as I said, line out just not working for them. La Rochelle then, they're able to clear. Leinster then try a cross kick into 22, but Dulin just collected it superbly. And then I think he got hit while he was in the air as well, so it's a penalty for them to clear. But just his take under pressure was absolutely brilliant. I thought, he was really good today, especially in the first half. Second half, a couple of errors, but overall, I thought, he's just a class player. Game really on a knife edge and great performances really on both sides so far. And that's really what you want to see. Like for me, I reiterate a lot, but I'm a rugby fan first, and then I'm a Leinster fan. So I want to see teams playing well. I'm obviously heart and mouth when they're near a try line and potentially going to score or whatever. But there's a part of me that can kind of detach from that and just enjoy the brilliance of certain players, whoever they play for, whether they're playing for my team or against them or for whoever. La Rochelle then, they lose Wardy, what looked like a possible rib injury just before the break, and again wish him a speedy recovery. Half time was 10-6 to Leinster, just about in the lead. Into the second half then, Doolan drops an up and under from Barrett, and Leinster have a scrum in a good attacking position. And in this kind of period of the game, kind of the third quarter, if you like, I thought Leinster's kicking game improved compared to the first half, and also compared to the last quarter as well, where they didn't use their kicking game as much. Probably a little bit worried about potentially giving the likes of Leeds or Nowell a chance to maybe find a gap out wide and create a try out of nothing. But yeah, in this period, I thought Leinster's kicking game certainly was an improvement. From here, then we have Leinster get the nudge in that scrum, but as they move forward, then when they spread it, Furlong eventually drops the ball, and La Rochelle are able to clear. And again, just that little bit of accuracy from Leinster that has been missing this year, and it's a level that we expect from them that we don't expect from many other teams, but they're not quite there this season at all. And people talk about Leinster can be slow starters in a season and etc. But at the same time, we're well into the season now. But also, again, the standards that they've set for themselves from the past, they're just not quite reaching that. And I feel like if they could, then personally for me, because of what's happened in the last 3 years, I don't see Leinster as they're definitely a team who can win this competition, but I don't see them as favourites to win the competition because of things like this. That if they get like a La Rochelle again, knockout stages, or a Toulouse or a Bordeaux or whoever, and when you get to that level in the knockouts, whether it's quarterfinals, semi-finals, or the final, these little things can be the winning and losing of the game, and so Leinster really do have to improve on that. La Rochelle then drive them all from the edge of the 22 to the 5 metre line, but Leinster then make it unplayable and turn the ball over. I thought, Van der Fleer did very well in the defence there, and afterwards, then we have some handbags, and Colombe, he gets penalised for escalating it. I think he, kind of pushing and then pulled off, I think, Doris's headgear or wherever, and then he gets the penalty for that. Leinster then win another penalty, go up the line into the 22, line out, scrappy again, and it really did kind of take the momentum out of their attack that felt very stilted and disrupted because of that. La Rochelle eventually hold up a maul and turn it over. Altreek then does well to go off the back of a retreating scrum. Leinster really getting on top in that area, especially given that La Rochelle have lost their 2 starting props. Leinster then destroy La Rochelle in the scrum and win a penalty, and get another penalty. We're playing advantage from the scrum penalty, and they get another penalty, I think, for maybe offside. So it's straight in front, and Prendergast makes it 13.6. And, there are kind of errors now beginning to creep in on La Rochelle's plays as well. it feels at that stage, it felt like Leinster could really begin to, turn the screw if they can capitalise on those. They get another penalty. Prendergast tags on another 3 for 16 points to 6. But then, La Rochelle start kind of, getting themselves back into the game. It starts, they win a scrum penalty. Leinster front row popping up. Astoy hits the post with a kick that you'd normally expect them, to get. But Leinster then knock it on. Ball comes off the post. And Leinster, I think it was gathered initially, but then as they passed it from there, it was knocked on. Aldrete then off the back of the scrum from that. Then it was it Satiti, I think? Yeah, he gets halted. And it looked like La Rochelle, if they could have moved it quick enough, there was space out on the right, but decent, pressure from Leinster, kind of that umbrella that we see from them that prevents, going wide too early unless you can really beat it, with the pace of your ball. And from here, then, the move eventually breaks down. La Rochelle, though, have a penalty then for Ryan being offside. So Astoy pops this one over, and it was straight in front, so 16 points to 9. La Rochelle then, with a period of pressure, Bottier to the 4, but Doris manages to turn it over. Leinster, work it clear, but then they kick the ball out on the full, and it allows La Rochelle to come back. They work it back up to the edge of the 22. Leinster keeping at bay, but you can see that they're creaking a little bit because it's taking a lot of effort to get these big guys down. And then the reset, they're resetting, but you always see there's a little bit of gap there. And when La Rochelle can get kind of outside the kind of the first up tackler, there is a chance there to find a soft shoulder and maybe get a half break, and that's all you need, for any of these teams. Astoy puts a lovely crossfield kick over to Lades. He dribbles a past the Leinster cover and then gets there first to score. And then Astoy, touchline conversion, very tough, and just about misses it, 16 points to 14. But the momentum now is definitely with La Rochelle. Jameson Gibson Park then gets taken out, off the ball. And it's just after the restart. And, if you're a La Rochelle fan, you'd be very frustrated with that. Always, teams, they're always told, once you scored points, don't, kind of mess it up by giving away soft penalties or, chances from the restart. Ross Byrne then, he's just on for Prendergast. He drags his kick at goal to the left. Should have slotted it. You would normally, Byrne in decent form, you would expect him to get that, but it looked like a poor kick. Leinster, now they're beginning to apply some pressure. Lades carries it over his own line, but thought it was brilliant from him. He has the presence of mind. He hasn't been tackled yet, so he passes it for a clearance kick, and just great defending there, and great kind of awareness, to think, because a lot of players would have thought, okay, well, I'll just take the tackle and we'll have to deal with the 5 meters attacking scrum. But he said, no, just look around. There's somebody there, pass it to them, to give them a chance to clear. And, it's brilliant moments like that could potentially, win a game like this when it's so close. Leinster, as I said, they're trying to put that pressure on, but La Rochelle, they're defending well. They're shutting Leinster down, not allowing them to exploit. You can see Leinster with some of the carries and some of the play. They're creating space out at the width, but La Rochelle, preventing them from actually getting the ball out there and exploiting that, or even when they do, they're coming up fast. They're making those passes kind of very difficult for the player to give, and you can see it's full commitment from them. Then La Rochelle get the hands of the ball. They're looking to run it from their own half. Now, a willing carrier on a number of occasions. Leinster managing, to kind of pin them in, but to get the feeling that, if La Rochelle can actually break out of this, could be the winning of the game from them. But Leinster win a penalty. It's far more difficult than the one that Byrne missed. It's near halfway. It's right out near the touchline. Barrett steps up, but he misses that one left as well. Difficult kick, but it's one, if he got it, already, he's well liked in Leinster anyway, but he'd be on his way to legend status, for something like that as well. That then leads to, play switching to the Leinster half. Bottia almost gets over the ball to win a penalty for La Rochelle, and you feel like Leinster wobbling a little bit now. And it's one of those ones where you're worried, when you're the team that has just that 2-point lead. You're worried when you have the ball and when you don't have the ball. When you have the ball and you're close to your own 22 or in your own half, you're worried someone's going to get isolated. You're going to give away a penalty. You're worried that you're going to throw an intercept pass for a try. You're worried when the opposition have the ball, then that they're going to find the break, or you're going to give away a penalty that could actually lose you the game. Leinster then pinged for no clear release at the ruck just inside the La Rochelle half. Aldrit then points to the post. Astoy with a chance to put them in front. There's only a couple of minutes left on the clock at this stage, and before the kick is taken, we have a Timo check for a head contact from Doris on the ball carrier, but he's completely fully bent at the knees as he kind of makes a tackle. There is head contact, but referee says no foul play, and I agree with that. And if you've watched my channel, I'm not agreeing with it because I'm a Leinster fan. I'm very happy, to call out foul play by whoever. But this is a fair one, and I'd say that no matter which team did it to whoever on that one, and I think most people would agree with me on that as well. Astoy, steps up then to take the kick. It looks like it's on target, but then just few meters short of the post, just starts to die and drops short. But drama not over, because it hits the post again, and in the scramble it ends up with a scrum to La Rochelle, and it's not good for the El Hart. But these really are the games that we live for. It's why we watch sport. At least for me, I don't watch sport necessarily to see my team win. Sorry, it just hit something there. But I don't watch it necessarily just to see my team win. Obviously I enjoy seeing my team win. Who wouldn't, right? But I'd rather watch a game like this. And even if we lost it by 2 points, yes, it would be disappointing, and I'd be, a little bit, I won't say depressed, like a little bit down after it, but that's where the enjoyment of the game is. I think is the fact that it can be that close. You could win it, you could lose it, and those ups and downs really for me are where the enjoyment of the sport is, and it's where the connection, I think, between rugby fans comes into as well. Is that you've got to be, again, not telling people, when I say got to be, I'm talking about myself, but I feel I've got to be like the same kind of fan in a defeat or in a win, and for me that's having respect for other rugby fans and other teams and players from other teams, etc., and having that kind of human connection where you can understand, from a La Rochelle point of view, if you don't win the game, or if you win the game, what it's like, and even if you're sad that your team lost, you can still be happy for them, if you know what I mean, and how that feels from the past, and you can still have respectful conversations with people and maybe enjoy a point together or wherever it is. but it's still, even though it's not good for the heart, as I said, I just love these types of games. Aldrit then, we've got the scrum. He comes off the back. Astoy drops back into the pocket, goes for a drop goal. Van der Fleer, brilliantly gets there, blocks it down, doesn't quite manage to, claim the ball, but he's at least stopped, what would have been the winning kick of the game. Leinster's defence then managed to drive La Rochelle back to the 10-metre line. Then La Rochelle go wide. They find space out in the channels again, work it up to the 22. And, again, it's one of those ones where all they need is a half gap. And if you do that, you can see the brilliant support lines they're running, and they're getting the numbers there that if a pass goes to hand, then they're in, and the game was won. But the game ends with, a knock on out there. And it was just the pressure that the Leinster press was putting on them. And it's just two teams, at the absolute limit, there, like Leinster in defence and La Rochelle on attack. And again, it's fine margins. Could have gone either way. Full time is 16-14. Leinster just about edging it. Okay, so let's talk about the stats from the game, and then we'll have a chat a little bit more about each of the teams. So tries, 1 try each, and some people will look at the scoreline in this game and say, how can you think that was, a good game to watch, an exciting game? There's only 2 tries in the game, but I'd rather watch a game like this where there's 2 tries, huge drama, big hits, commitment from both teams, moments where, teams could get in front, or there's brilliant defense that saves their team, rather than a team, a game that has, let's say, 15 tries and one team has 11 or 12 tries and the other team has whatever 3 or 4 tries, and there's like a 30-40 point gap between the teams for most of the game. So it's not really a contest. So you've seen plenty of tries, but you can admire the skill involved in the try scoring, etc. But there isn't really that jeopardy there in the game that really gets your heart racing. Again, you can admire the skill of the players and the fantastic tries that have been scored, but the actual result of the game, for the most part, is known pretty early in the game in those types of ones. Then 3 penalties each from them, and the one difference was Leinster converted their try and La Rochelle didn't, but that was a difficult kick for Astoy. And it just shows we're almost getting spoiled by the way that players are now able to fairly consistently convert from out in the touchline, because then you forget how difficult the kick it is, and it's only when somebody misses it you realise that's actually a very tough kick for somebody to get. So no shade on him from that. I thought overall he had a really good game for La Rochelle, and it was a kick that if he'd landed it would have been fantastic, and it probably would have been enough to actually lift La Rochelle to actually drive them on to win, and it probably would have potentially at least gotten another penalty or something like that. Obviously, I talk about it lots of times that just because somebody missed a kick, you can't just add that on the end to the final score, because everything changes when something like that happens, right? The way Leinster are going to approach the game, the way La Rochelle approach the game, if it's just been tied up, is going to be completely different. So on to then attack. So meters made, 335 for La Rochelle, 343 for Leinster. Again, just emphasising how close the game was. 134 carries to 113. Clean break 7 for La Rochelle and 4 for Leinster. 28 defenders beaten to 11. And again, I think that really highlights, the fact that La Rochelle were creating space, or creating opportunities, but that Leinster scramble, that was in there behind, really did help them out on a lot of occasions. Offloads 10 each. We didn't really see like Snyman come off the bench. We didn't see kind of his usual 3 or 4 offloads in the game. He didn't have that much impact in terms of carrying because Leinster didn't have that much of the ball really for the period that he was on. Passes then 154 to 129, possession 59% to 41, and territory 60 to 40. So La Rochelle, most of the ball and most of the territory. So most of the pressure then was on the Leinster defence, and it really was the fact that they took their opportunities a little bit better, and only a little bit better, honestly, than La Rochelle did. That edged it for them. Onto defence then. 99 tackles for La Rochelle, 147 for Leinster, 82% to 80%. 82 for La Rochelle, probably a little bit lower than they'd normally expect, but again, it's a decent Leinster team that are playing. Leinster around about 80. We've seen it in the URC where they're kind of around there as well, because when you have that aggressive defense, that's the chance you take that the tackles are going to be missed, and what you're banking on is the fact that the next player is able to actually come in and plug that hole and then tackle a player. There were a few times, especially against the likes of Noel, that it didn't happen for them, but eventually they did get him down. But, again, kind of knife edge stuff there. Turnovers won then 11 to 10. So both teams turning over each other, a lot of them were forced errors in terms of knock-ons and stuff like that. Set piece then, line-outs 12 each. La Rochelle 100%. No real pressure, honestly, from Leinster in the line-out, which, especially when you think that, James Ryan was out there, that generally, even though Leinster's attacking line-outs have been poor, generally he can put some pressure on, but they weren't really able to. And I think a lot of it was because they were afraid of the maul and they were keeping kind of guys on the ground as much as they could to kind of stifle that maul as soon as possible. Leinster 86%. It's better than in statistically at least than we've seen recently from them, but at crucial times is when it malfunctioned. They had a kick to the corner where potentially it's potentially going to lead to a try or a penalty and points on the board, but just completely fluffed it there. No line-out steals for either team. Scrums then 8-1 by La Rochelle, 4 from Leinster, 89% for La Rochelle in the scrum and 80% for Leinster. But for me, for the bulk of the game, Leinster had the nudge in the scrum. Kicking then, kicks from hand 33 to 32. Both teams kicking a lot. I felt that, again, La Rochelle in the first half had the better of the kicking duels. Second half then, Leinster stepped up their kicking game definitely. Astoy had a few wayward kicks, that went out on the full that kind of evened things up, and you can see that in kick meters as well. 1,157 from La Rochelle is an amazing number, and 1,046 for Leinster. And again, it comes back to this whole idea of who are running teams and who are kicking teams. If you look at the stats, most quote unquote running teams are kicking teams, in that they kick in order to create the space to be able to run. And we see it from these two teams. We see it from the likes of the French national team. We see it from the Scottish national team as well. You kicked in order to misalign the opposition's defense, and then you run the ball and you exploit what you've basically kind of maneuvered them into that position you've maneuvered them into. Retained kicks then 7-3 for La Rochelle, very competitive in the air, and penalty goals, as I said, 3 points each. Onto the breakdown then, Rooks won 97 for La Rochelle to 59 for Leinster. Rooks lost 2-3 for Leinster. Both teams very aggressive at the ruck, and especially any kind of a sniff, and they're in there, they're putting on the pressure, making a scrappy ball for the opposition, just, doing everything to slow down that attack just by a beat or two. Ruck success, 96% to 94. Then turnovers won in rucks and mauls. I don't know why, I don't trust this stat, honestly, because the turnovers numbers are always the same as this, which for me doesn't make sense because you get turnovers in other ways as well, but it's 11 to 10. Mauls total then 4 to 4. Maul success 50% for La Rochelle, and 25% for Leinster. Maul meters gained 2 meters to 1 meter. Doesn't sound right because La Rochelle definitely mauled a ball from kind of the edge of the 22 to the 5 meter line, or just before the 5 meter line. So it should have been around 15 meters for that one maul. So I'm not sure on that stat there, honestly. But Leinster overall defended the maul okay. It wasn't brilliant, but when La Rochelle got go forward, they didn't panic. They didn't concede penalties from it, and they were able to kind of regroup and eventually halt it, even if they had conceded meters. Penalties conceded then, 10 for La Rochelle, 11 for Leinster. Not a dirty game by any stretch of the imagination, but both teams certainly would want to get that number a bit lower. You're always aiming for, I think, single figures for your penalty count, because generally in a game, it's rare for both teams to be in single digits. So generally, if you get into single digits, you're going to be on the right side of the penalty count. Okay, so that's that. We're going to then briefly talk about each of the teams. So we start with the home team, La Rochelle. They had 2 big periods, extended periods in the game, where they were definitely dominant in terms of not just having the ball, but having the ball in Leinster's half, in around the 22. But they didn't score enough points during those periods, and that ultimately was the downfall in this game. It was obviously tight margins, and if La Rochelle had sneaked the game, maybe we were talking about Leinster and kind of a similar thing. But that's what it is, right? It's just get an extra score during those periods, and it's enough to win the game. And when there's so few opportunities because defenses are so brilliant, you do kind of have to look at that. They disrupted Leinster's line out really well. Noel, I thought, was excellent. Then Astoy, overall good, but second half a little bit of a mixed bag because of those kicks out on the full. Bottier, good impact from the bench from him, and there was a lot of other players as well kind of stood up there. Aldrit did a lot of kind of carrying from them as well, especially out of kind of difficult situations for them. Dylan Lades, when he got his chances, looked dangerous. He scored his try as well. Dulan there at the back, was a big part of why they were kind of winning that kicking battle in the first half, and felt like they did well to stifle the Leinster attack, and especially at the point when Leinster would have kind of eased away from most other teams. I talked about after in the second half, after they got the try, after Leinster got their try, that there was a period where you felt like against a lot of other teams that would have kind of just started easing away, get another couple of scores. We saw against Bristol, it was that kind of scenario, but La Rochelle did really well to kind of limit them to not just to the one try, but the one real try scoring opportunity as well. They had a lot of injuries as well during the game, and we don't know, yet what the long-term impact of that is going to be. They had chances to win the game as well, but it just wasn't to be for them. But, still, they're an excellent side, and no one, will want to get these guys in the knockout stages. On to Leinster then, defended well when they were under real pressure. Scrum went well. Line out, still a serious problem from them. That has to be sorted. Wherever they were talking about, there's new law interpretations coming in, and it's basically the one about the if there's no opposition, or if there's no opposition jumpers, your throw doesn't have to be straight. But we can see that they were talking about, we're changing the way we do it because of the law changes and etc. But you still see there's problems there, and it's gotten to the point now where they need to fix it in house, and if they can't do that, they have to bring somebody in to fix it, because it's a serious problem, and it's so serious, I think, that it could be the reason why they have yet another trophyless season this season. That's how poor I think their lineup is at the minute, and the fact that it's not working is pretty much halving the number of genuine attacking opportunities they're getting from set pieces, because we see a lot of the tries that Leinster score in terms of just that complete accuracy are coming from, when they go off the top of a line out, and then they have, so many options for the ball carrier, and the fact that you've already tied up a lot of the forwards out where the line out is, the space is there, and they're brilliant at exploiting that space. But if you're not getting the ball, from your line out, or if it's not clean, if it's not, going exactly where you want it, then it's a major, major problem, and they definitely need to fix it. I thought they created and took the try well. Accuracy from the tee almost cost them, although, you'd be a bit kind of, harsh to maybe blame Barrett for missing his one, because it was a super tough kick. I think Byrne, again, if he had been in decent form, and maybe, obviously his confidence taken a knock by the fact that he's gone from basically being the starter for Ireland and the starter for Leinster to, being a backup and not even sometimes getting into the match day squad. So certainly, that has had to have an effect on him. But still, if he wants to get back up to that level, he's got to take his opportunities. Prendergast, feel like he's definitely going to learn from this game. He realizes now, I think, that you do not get as much time at this level against this type of opposition than you would in the URC. The intensity is just too much there, and he's got to speed up his game a little bit without any kind of drop off in the quality. Doris and Van der Fleur, I thought, were excellent. Barrett prominent throughout. Baird had some good moments too, but there were a couple of poor moments from him as well. But I think overall, it was a positive impact from him while he was on the field. Bench, there was a lot of talk about the bench, but the bench didn't have as much impact as maybe was expected. And I think a lot of that was the fact that, Leinster were kind of in defensive mode, and unless somebody kind of comes up with a steal or a penalty or whatever, turnover, they don't stand out as much in a defensive effort. Nobody kind of is raving about somebody just because they made their tackles right. They've got to do that little bit extra to stand out. But this is a big win for Leinster. Having said that, though, they still have to finish the job next week against Bath, because if they don't do that, then the effort here is pretty much, in terms of the whatever way the pool turns out, is almost going to be for nothing, right? And it's actually going to be worse. It'll almost be better to lose this one, by the reverse score, like 2 points or whatever, pick up a losing bonus point, and then finish well against Bath and have that bounce for when we return for the knockout stages. But That's the end of that one from me. So let me know what you think down in the comments.